Why Morocco? It's the question that I'm asked more than any other question. And that's because a lot of Moroccans want to leave the country. The reason they give is Moroccan mentality. This is a vague description for outdated views and old-fashioned moral values. Moroccans tend to see other countries, particularly those in the West, as being more open-minded, more free. So when they meet people from those countries who want to stay in Morocco, they're baffled. But I do want to stay in Morocco. And here's why. I could say I'm here for the weather. After all, this is mid-November and it's hotter than Greta Thunberg's temper. I could say I'm here for the views, or the delicious cheap food, or the warm, welcoming people, all of which is true. But let's be honest, you can get those things in other countries. I first came to Morocco in 2007. The following year, I would travel to Syria, and I thought having a short time in Morocco would be a nice welcome to the Muslim world. Let me talk a little bit about Syria. I promise you it's relevant as to why I am here in Morocco. I spent a lot of time in Syria, both before and during the conflict. This was a decade ago, when the talk was of the Arab Spring. This was a push from people for more social and political freedoms, more accountability, and less corruption. For those of us in the Middle East at the time, we knew that this was not a one-off event. We knew that this was the beginning of the process of change, a process that is still going on in the Middle East and in North Africa. 10 years ago, we had the Facebook generation. And indeed, this beginning process of change was referred to as the Facebook revolution. And in some ways, that was much more accurate than the Arab Spring. People were using this emerging social media platform to gather together, not just as people, but as a group of ideas and demands. 10 years on, we have the Netflix generation. Now, people don't protest for change. They behave as if they already have it. And in some ways, in many ways, they're right. A lot has changed since I first came here in 2007. People are more free than they were. They are much more able to develop and to learn things from themselves without having to rely on other people in power to tell them what to think and what to know. And that's a good thing. And the government itself is part of that change. It is much more open to new ideas and more sensitive to different points of view. And it's also investing greatly in the country. Morocco is changing physically as much as it is mentally and emotionally. For some, that change is not happening quick enough, and that's understandable. For others, the change is happening too quickly, and that also is understandable. We view change from our own perspective. But what is certain is that change is happening. The Facebook generation laid the foundation of change for the Netflix generation. Now people are opening up opportunities for the next generation to create change. I am so grateful that I was able to live in Syria during part of the Facebook revolution. Even at that time, I knew that this was part of history, something that was going to change the world forever. Now I'm living in Morocco and I'm witnessing the next stage of change. To be able to record that change, to document it, so that future generations get to understand how they got to be where they are, I find that exciting. It's a privilege and a pleasure and an honor to do. And in some ways, in many ways, it's what I feel I should do. And so that is why Morocco.
Hello everybody. Today is Eid, the first day after Ramadan ends. And I have a little tradition that I do on this day that involves a bottle of water and going into the Medina. And I thought you'd be interested in coming along with me while I do this little traditional activity. It's a day when most of the shops are closed, apart from the cafes obviously. And it's also the day where you see most Moroccans wearing the traditional Moroccan costumes, the type of thing that people who have no idea what Morocco is really like imagine people wear every single day as they go to work riding a camel. Families get together, they pray, they eat, and they just spend a good time together. Usually lasts 2 to 3 days, the holiday, and then everything is back to normal. Okay, so here I am in the Medina, about to do my little traditional thing, and it's a very simple thing, but I take this opportunity to drink water in public for the first time in a month. Here we go. It's official. Normality has returned. Actually, as a foreigner, as an expat, I'm perfectly entitled to drink during Ramadan outside. The famous penal code 222 is the thing that prohibits Muslims and Moroccans particularly from eating and drinking in public. I've been here for 6 years now, and one of the things that I've discovered is that Moroccans actually don't mind non-Moroccans drinking and eating in the street, and some people actually regard it as part of the suffering that they are supposed to go through. It's actually the expat community themselves who are very stringent about expats eating and drinking in the street. But anyway, that's all over now for another year. Well, actually, to be more exact, it's another 11 and a half months, because Ramadan comes forward about 12 days every year. Anyway, cheers. So I thought I'd take this moment to share with you some of my thoughts and feelings about Ramadan, and also some of my observations having been here for the last 6 years. It may interest, maybe even surprise you to realize that in some ways I actually like Ramadan. In fact, I like it so much in some ways that I wish other nations outside of Islam would adopt some of its principles. I like the fact that it's a month long. You can do a lot in a month. One of the things that I've noticed about Moroccans during Ramadan is that they take this opportunity to change something about themselves that they don't like, to improve themselves. This is usually something physical, losing weight, just generally becoming more fit. They also use it to give up smoking, things like that. And because it's a month, they have the opportunity to do that. It doesn't take more than a month to break old habits and create new ones. And the fact that this is a month of self-improvement that is sanctioned and supported by the government, I think that's a great idea. Imagine how fantastic the world would be if every nation had a month where its people were encouraged and supported in self-improvement. So on that basis, I actually love Ramadan. One of my lasting visual memories of Ramadan is seeing an old man sat on a park bench reading a book. I don't think it was the Quran, because the cover wasn't as ornate as it usually is when it's the Quran. But he was just sat there, so peaceful, so in his own world and that of the fictional characters he was reading about. So much at peace. And I just thought, yeah, this is actually the true essence of what Ramadan is about. So that much I really love. Having this inability to drink in public and eat does give you the sense of gratitude when you are able to then eat and drink again in public. And I guess that's what Ramadan is all about. It's taking that 1 month out of your everyday life to then be grateful for the things that you have during those 11 months. And that's no bad thing. And like I say, I wish there were many countries throughout the world that would adopt similar attitudes. There are some wonderful things about Ramadan. Anyway, to all people who have celebrated Ramadan, I wish you a very happy Eid. Eid Mubarak, everybody.